Well, for more on that story, we can speak to Derek Gatherer, who is a virologist at the University of Lancaster. Welcome to the programme. This is an era where there are currently no new antibiotics. How worrying is this for scientists?
It is quite worrying because we face a very different world, and it will be much more like the world that our grandparents or great-grandparents inhabited. There are people still alive today that remember what things were like before 1945, when the first antibiotics became widely commercially available. And it means that we have to change our attitude to things like trivial infections, to elective surgery, and to sports injuries and so on, where at the moment we can be reasonably secure that if an infection does develop, that there might be an antibiotic to treat it, but the future may well be very different.
Now, antibiotics are used across many industries, not just given to people when they're ill. What advice would you give to people in ways of protecting themselves?
There isn't really very much you can do as an individual to protect yourself. We know that medical practitioners have to cut down on the amount of prescribing they do, and in fact that's already happening. There's been an initiative in the UK for some years now to reduce antibiotic use to cases where they're really urgently needed, and we can see the effects of that happening already. But antibiotics are still fairly extensively used in agriculture, so that the same effort has to be made to cut down antibiotic use in farm animals, because we know that quite a lot of the antibiotic-resistant strains actually don't arise through the human hospital system, but are actually have a veterinary origin or arise in farming practices that involve giving antibiotics routinely to cattle or other farm animals.
How do we tackle new superbugs from evolving? I mean, can we slow down their evolution?
There's very little we can do about the actual evolution of the bacteria. They'll respond to whatever selective forces are in their environment. So if the bacteria finds itself in an environment where antibiotics are present, then resistance to those antibiotics will evolve. So we simply have to try to reduce the amount of antibiotics that are used clinically and in a veterinary setting, and at the same time making sure that we're funding well efforts to develop new forms of treatment, both new antibiotics and other alternative forms of treatment. For instance, things like bacteriophage therapy, which is an idea that we could use viruses that attack bacteria. So that would be a biological weapon against bacteria rather than a chemical weapon, which is what antibiotics are.
Okay, Derek Gatherer in Lancaster, thank you very much for speaking to us at TRT World.